3-1 last week, 59% on the year, and I've got 5 more picks for you tonight. Welcome into Saturday Locks. I'm your host, Rajiv. Thanks for joining the show. I'm going to give you picks, my best college football picks every single week. I'm going to tell you how I did the week before. I'm going to tell you my season record, full transparency on all of the college football bets. If you like what we're doing on the show, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for all the support. All right, let's get into it right away here. Last week was pretty good. 3-1. We're going to go over those games. Solid week, 59% winning percentage on the year, 27 wins, 19 losses, and 1 push. We got 5 games for you tonight, including a Friday special. Normally these games are on Saturday, but we're doing a Friday special for you today. So let's talk quickly about last week. 3 wins. I had Wisconsin plus 30 over Indiana. Solid game there for my Badgers. Solid first half, but they did cover. Arizona at Cincinnati. I thought Arizona was going to be able to go in there and get something done. They did. They won that game. Penn State minus 7.5 at Michigan State. I think they won that game by 18. And the one loss, again, very, very close. USC minus 6.5 at home against Iowa. They won that game by 5. So it was very, very close. I think they missed the 2-point conversion or something throughout that game. It was a killer. Could have actually had that. Could have been a 4-0 week. But nonetheless, still a really good week. And a good record on the season overall. All right, so let's get into picks for this week. Games to be played on Saturday, November 22nd, except for the first one. This is week 13 of college football. All right, so we're going to start with a Friday night special, Hawaii at UNLV. I bet on UNLV a few weeks ago against New Mexico, and I took UNLV, and I talked a lot about in that game just how much of a track meet this game really was going to be. That is exactly what's going to happen again. Home game, Allegiant Stadium, perfect indoor weather. Hawaii averaging 31 points a game, UNLV averaging 36 points a game. Neither defense is really good. UNLV's is definitely not that good. It's just one of those games where you're just going to see a lot of touchdowns. If there's some red zone issues, maybe you could run into some stalls here potentially, but UNLV is happy to trade touchdowns. They've been doing it all year. I think this over and under number is a little bit affected by what happened last game for UNLV. They won 29-26 in double overtime against Utah State. So that's kind of driving that number down a little bit. Honestly, this very well could be a 41-38 type of a game. I'm going over 64.5. I think that it's very easy to get wrapped up in the fact that, these high numbers, people are just really dying to take the under. Most sharp money is actually on the over here. Okay. There is more public bets on the under, but the sharp money is on the over. So I'm taking Hawaii UNLV over 64.5 Friday night special. All right, moving on to Saturday games. First up, Minnesota at Northwestern. I'm taking Northwestern minus 3.5. Minnesota, their home and away record is pretty hilarious. They've won all their games at home. They've lost them all away from home. They're 6-0 at home, 0-4 on the road. Now, some of those road teams have been very difficult. They had to go to Ohio State, Iowa, Oregon. One was California, who's not a very good team. Minnesota their quarterback is Drake Lindsey. It's true freshman or redshirt freshman, one of the two. But he's a freshman, and he is very prone to mistakes away from home. I don't think Minnesota is very good at all. When you look at who they've played at home, it's been a very, very weak schedule, very weak. All their tough games have been on the road, and they've struggled with them. They haven't really beat any good teams at home, really good teams at all, even though they're 6-4 on the year. Northwestern's 5-5. Stingy team, plays teams very well. This is a second game in a row at Wrigley Field. At Wrigley Field here. Strange place, baseball stadium. Northwestern fought hard last week, forced 5 turnovers against Michigan. They did lose 24-22. Northwestern's laying points here, minus 3.5, which on the surface is interesting, but honestly, because of that, you've got a lot of bets going on Minnesota. 74% of bets, 87% of money on Minnesota. I'm going the other way. I'm taking Northwestern minus 3.5. Drake Lindsey, freshman quarterback, does not do well away from home. He's certainly not going to do well against a much stingier defense than the other teams they've played that they beat. And in a weird baseball environment, not going to work. Minnesota is not that good. Take Northwestern, lay the points. Next up, staying in the Big Ten, Michigan State at Iowa. I'm taking Iowa minus 16.5. Big line here. I've seen it at 16.5, seen it at 17. I like it much better at 16.5. If you have an opportunity to buy that down, I would take it at the minus 16.5. I was able to get that today. Bet against Michigan State last week. They are a team that sometimes can backdoor cover, but honestly, that team is spiraling at this point. They are an absolute sieve when it comes to rush defense. Oh, and guess what? Iowa, of course, is a fantastic rushing team. They always have been. They always will be. Mark Gronowski at quarterback has played pretty well. Not flashy numbers, but Iowa scores points. Yeah, they went to USC last week and they put up points. They put up points against a lot of teams on their schedule. They've been in virtually every game they've played. Up until last week, they were honestly still fighting for a potential playoff spot, but the loss at USC, which was a tough one, really kind of took them out of it. Michigan State's not a good team. Iowa's playing senior day at home. Kinnick Stadium is an absolute gauntlet. Extremely difficult to play there. Extremely difficult to win. Normally, I wouldn't lay this many points for Iowa because they just don't score that much, but Michigan State's not going to do much of anything. It's very hard to score on Iowa's defense if you are a good offense. So no, Michigan State's not going to score much. Iowa will. I think this is probably 34-10-ish, something like that. I would even go a little bit higher here, but minus 16.5. Michigan State's run defense. That's the number. That's the thing that's gonna get them, just like it did last week against Penn State. I said that last week. I said that those guys, Singleton and those guys, were gonna have big days, and that's exactly what they did. Iowa's gonna do a similar thing, and of course, with Iowa, you always have to factor in special teams. Weechin, they've got so many athletes that do very well in that phase of the game. They don't make mistakes. They certainly don't make mistakes at home. Michigan State at Iowa. I'm taking Iowa, laying the 16.5 points. All right, next up, one of the big games of the week, USC at Oregon. Definitely a battle here for college football playoff. Oregon likely in, even if they were to lose this game, I think, but they could definitely slip out. But USC, if they win this and they win their last game of the season, which against UCLA, it's, in my opinion, they're in. This is a huge win for them. They have a very solid year going. Oregon is a team that I've said a couple times. They're good. Listen, they're a really good team. But they've had some interesting results throughout the season. They struggled against Wisconsin. That's not a good thing. They went on the road to Iowa. Very tough place to play, as we just talked about. They won 18-16 in the thriller. Oregon has, obviously they got beat at home against Indiana. Very, very good team. Don't underestimate the importance of USC battling for a playoff spot. It's Lincoln Riley's a very good coach, and he's completely turned that program around. Jade Mayava is playing very good football right now, and their weapons, their skill position weapons at USC are impressive. King Miller, the running back, Makai Lemon, wide receiver, who was insane last week against Iowa. Iowa's a good defense, and USC Jade Mayava could just kind of do what he wanted at times, and they were very, very good about getting down the field and putting points up. Now, USC does have the tendency to give up a lot of rush yards, but the thing is about Oregon, they've had moments this year of high-powered offense, but when they play these big games, when they play these tough opponents, they do win often, but they don't really win by wide margins. Look at the Indiana game, look at the Wisconsin, look at the Iowa game. They did have a big win against Minnesota last week, but as per a few minutes ago, I don't think Minnesota is a very good team. I think this game is simply close. I do not think USC wins it. I think they could, but 10 points is a lot. I was able to get this at 10. You can see it some places at 9.5, 10. Obviously, take more points. I'm taking USC plus 10 in Oregon in absolutely one of the biggest games of the week. All right, last up, we're going to the Big 12 and a team that I've been talking about a little bit lately. That's BYU, both BYU and Cincinnati. I bet against Cincinnati last week, and we won that bet, taking Arizona. BYU, I lost on them a couple weeks ago against Texas Tech. I did not actually list them last week in Saturday Locks. I did bet on them in their game against TCU. I won that bet, but I'm not counting it because I didn't say it on here. BYU, very good rushing attack. Bear Bachmeier, LJ Martin. The only game that they've really been slipped up in, of course, is the Texas Tech game, and Texas Tech is very good. Tech's got an amazing run defense that was able to really shut down BYU. Cincinnati doesn't really have that. Cincinnati's defense, as we talked about last week, is a bit of a bend, don't break. They're not really very aggressive. They give up plenty of yards. BYU, just like I mentioned with USC, fighting for a playoff spot. They're currently ranked 11th. Okay. They cannot lose. And if they don't lose, they will get into the college football playoff. BYU's had a very solid season, 9-1. Cincinnati also has been pretty good. But ultimately, I just think BYU's rush attack, the fact that they're fighting for their playoff life, is just going to be too much to handle. Interestingly enough, 89% of money is on Cincinnati, but only 37% of the bets, which means there's a lot of sharps money on Cincinnati. I realize that that's oftentimes where I will bet. I'll bet with some of those sharps and against some public money, but I really think BYU is gonna take this and take it handily. You could look at this line and think, gee, it's kind of telling you to bet Cincinnati. I mean, it's the line just looks a little short. You would expect BYU to be favored by more, and you might be. I think this is just a bad line, similar to the USC Oregon game. A bad line there. I think USC should be much closer. So that's value there. I think this is just value. I don't see a situation that BYU goes to Cincinnati, even though it's going to be a tough environment, big game for both teams. I think they just get it done. Let's go over those picks again. Friday night special again. This is a Friday, November 21st game. Hawaii at UNLV. I'm going over 64.5. Going to be a track meet. Let's take the over this time. I did not do that a few weeks ago. I should have. Minnesota at Northwestern, -3.5. Minnesota, they don't do well on the road. They've lost pretty much every game. They've lost all the games they've played on the road. Wrigley Field, weird environment. Freshman quarterback from Minnesota, not going to work. Northwestern -3.5. Michigan State at Iowa, I'm laying 16.5 points for the Hawkeyes. Big line, but I like that it's under 17. And if you have to pay 17.5, don't do it. I think 16.5 is a good number for this. Michigan State's spiraling. They're not very good. They just got slapped with violations, and Iowa's a team that can score, and they don't give up points at Kinnick Stadium. USC at Oregon, game of the week here. Taking USC +10. I just think this game's going to be close. Oregon has not impressed me all that much this season. They've had some ups, they've had some downs. USC +10. If they win this, they're likely going to make it into the playoff. And lastly, BYU -2.5 at Cincinnati. That'll do it for today's show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for your support of the show. And of course, happy betting.